Well, hello, it's Ben here with the DIY Homefront. And a few months ago, I did a video on an unboxing and review on the Harbor Freight mini tire changer. And when I did that video, I got some comments. And I sort of kept track of all those comments, and I said that the next time I did tire changing, I'd make a video about it. All the things I did wrong, and everything YouTube told me to do instead. But you can see behind me, we've got a few lawnmowers. So today is that day, and we're going to put all those YouTube suggestions to the test and see if I can change the tires a lot easier and a lot better than I did it the last time. So keep watching and let's see what we can get done. Well, a smart person would ask, why so many mowers and why are they all the same? Well, they're all the same because I've gotten pretty good at working on them, so I don't have to learn a new mower. And if something breaks off of one, most of the time it'll fit on the others. So let me sort of point out what we got going on here. This one in the middle, that's the one I'm currently using. And I have sold quite a few parts off this part mower and put on it. This mower I completely went through, and this winter I plan on getting all those videos out. But I bought that earlier this year and I went completely through it, and that's going to be next year's mower. And this little guy, I just bought this one. And the deck is about shot. You can see it's rusted through in a couple spots. He said it had at least one bad tire. And I think, not sure which one it is. I think that must be the bad tire. Look at the dry rot on that. And then my grandson's got a little green tractor that he rides around in the yard. It's one of those ones that takes a little small battery, little Tykes, or I forget the brand they call them. But he has destroyed it, and I'm going to convert this mower into his new lawn tractor. He's going to end up with a real lawnmower and a real cart, and if he wants to drive around the yard and do things, he can. Well, anyway, long story short, we're going to do some maneuvering of tires and get these all straightened out. Alright, well, thanks for watching. I'm sure you're here for that Harbor Freight tire changer. But while you're at it, think about subscribing and you won't miss any of my videos. Now, my parts mower has two fairly good tires. They're not dry rotted or anything. They're the smaller tire. They are the 18 9.5 by 8. And they're going to go on this mower. You can see all those cracks. Looks like this one is the same way. It has got a lot of cracks. So let's go ahead and start by swapping these two tires out. Now, I know this seems a little silly, but you know, the best way to change a tire is by not using the Harbor Freight tire changer at all. It's just by taking one tire off of a lawnmower and putting it on another one. And that's what I'm going to start off doing. Now, these models of Craftsman lawnmowers, both the front and rear tire are held in place with clips. And you pull the clips off and the tire should just slide off if you're lucky. Sometimes the back tire can be rusted in place because it has a pin so that it rotates with the axle. But if you're lucky, somebody's put a lot of grease on that axle and it'll just slide right off like this one. Well, I think I'm going to get lucky with this lawnmower I just bought because it looks like there's so much grease on that back axle there's no place for rust to be. So it should just slide right off. Well, I'm going to spread all that grease that was on this axle around to make sure it's fully covered, and then we'll put the tire on. Like I said, the rear tires have something called a key, which is a piece of metal that will lock the rim to the axle. After the key, there's some washers that'll go on, and they ensure the key won't fall out and that the rubber boot that protects this has something to hold on to. Finally, you have that clip to put back on, and the only thing I can say is make sure you keep track of that clip because they like to spring off in all kinds of different directions and they will get lost quick, especially if you're doing this in the dirt. Well, there we go. Now we've got a brand new tire on the back of this lawnmower we're going to use, and that was one of my first suggestions, to skip the Harbor Freight tire changer altogether and just buy new tires that are already on a rim. And that's a real possibility. It's hard to find them in a store, but online you can find all your tires already mounted to rims. And to be honest, they're really not that much more expensive. So as far as time goes, I swapped these 2 tires out from one lawnmower to another in about 10 minutes. And you can't beat that. That's pretty easy. Okay, so we've got the back tires taken care of on that mower. Let's see which other tires need to be replaced on these. Well, it turns out the front tires on my grandson's mower were just fine. So I'm going to put the best set of tires I currently have on the mower I'm currently cutting grass with. Well, once again, I got these 2 tires swapped out in about 10 minutes. So that means we're averaging 1 tire replaced every 5 minutes. Now these 2 mowers have the same rear tires, 20 by 8 by 8. And this tire is good, but this tire is bad. And what I mean by bad is you put air in it, you use the lawnmower, but the next time you go get it out, you have to put air in the tire again. And I've got the same issue on this side. I've got one that's bad and one that's good. So I'll take the good tire off of this, put it over there on the bad one. I haven't brought up safety as much as I should in my videos, but don't use things improperly. Tires do not make good jacks. Well, the mower didn't make it too far, but I better get that tire before it bumps into my wife's car. Something else I haven't said is when you're putting these tires on, make sure that the valve stem is pointing out. You can't put the rear tires on wrong, but the front tires could go on either way. And you don't want to end up trying to put air in your tire just to find that the valve stem's on the wrong side. Alright, this one is taken care of. It's got 2 good back tires, 2 good front tires. I think I'll go air everything up real quick to make sure that they have the right amount of pressure in it. And then we can get this mower out of here and move on to something else. Alright, it's been a day and it's time to get 4 new tires on those old rims and get this lawnmower back out in the yard. Well, the last time it was in winter and the tires were cold, but they've been out in the sun and they are nice and warm. And that was another YouTube suggestion. Make sure your tires are warm, not cold, and you'll have a lot easier time getting the tires on the rim using that Harbor Freight tire changer. Well, this is where I'm going to set up and we're going to get the work done, but I'm going to turn on that big fan because it's just too hot. Alright, there were quite a few suggestions that said the tire changer needed to be securely mounted to something before I used it. So I made a base for it, this wooden base, and it's designed so that I can clamp it to a table, whether it's my picnic table or whether it's this folding table. All I have to do is use 4 clamps on each corner and the wood is securely attached to the table, and then I slide the tire changer in, put some screws in to lock it in place, and it's securely fastened. So that would be the next thing. Make sure that the tire changer is secure. Well, there's already quite a few videos on this mini tire changer, and I've also got 2 of them myself. So I'm going to focus in on the things that everybody said I should have done that would make it easier to use this. And if you really want to see me struggle, you can go back and watch my other videos on the tire changer. I'll leave a link at the end of this video that'll put you on the first time I tried to use this tire changer. One of the first things you're going to want to do is when you're trying to break the bead of the tire from the rim, you'll want to make sure that you have this tool set up right. It needs to be adjusted so that it's as close as possible to where the rim and the tire meet from the center. Now you'll have to take the tool off and flip the tire over when you're going to break the bead on the other side. But having done this with a cold tire as opposed to a warm tire, it is a lot easier. I imagine what would make a bigger difference on how easy it is to break the bead of the tire from the rim is just how the tire and the rim are. If the tire's been on there a long time and it's all rusted to the rim, it's probably a lot harder to break loose. If it's a newer tire or if it's a cleaner surface where the 2 meet, it's probably a lot easier. But having a warm tire does help. So I'm going to take a sharp utility knife and I'm going to cut a piece out of this tire I'm throwing away. And I'm going to use that piece to insert into my vice grip, so that way when I use the vice grips to clamp onto the rim, I'm not damaging the rim at all. So if you're keeping track, that's going to be the 4th YouTube suggestion. Don't use a Harbor Freight tire changer at all. Buy new tires on rims. Make sure the tire is hot. Make sure the tire changer is mounted to a base. And this suggestion, to use a pair of vice grips on the rim to secure the tire in place while you're trying to take it off. The tire changer comes with two tools, one that's going to break the bead and the other one that's supposed to help you get the tire on and off. And even though I had some comments trying to explain how I was supposed to use this tool, I still found myself struggling with it, and sometimes I just went back to screwdrivers. Okay, here are the two brand new tires that we're going to be putting on the lawnmower, and I'm going to go ahead and put those in the sun so they can be heating up. Okay, here's our next tire, and it's nice and warm. Let's get all the air out of it. We'll break the bead of the tire from the rim with that special tool, and I'll just refer to this as the bead breaker. Then I'll take the vice grips out and lock it onto the rim, and then I can use that tool that came with the Harbor Freight tire changer and get the tire off of the rim. The next suggestion I'll talk about is turning the tire over on the tire changer. One suggestion was not to rotate the tire, just to leave it on the tire changer and do all the work from one side. And I found that I could do that when I was putting the tires on, but I really struggled trying to do that when I was taking the tires off. Every time I tried, I ended up pretty much taking the tire off the tire changer, turning it over, so that way I could get the other side of the tire off. And here I am doing the same thing again. I'm going to turn the tire over to make it easier to get the tire all the way off the rim. I guess it really boils down to your skill level and how good you are, because if you can effectively and efficiently remove the tire that way, then go for it. But if you can't and all you're going to do is spend another 10 minutes struggling with it, you're better off spending the time to flip the tire over. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on these rims before I can put the tires on them. These rims have had a product put on them that's supposed to help the tire seal to the rim, and it's pretty neat stuff, but I'm probably going to need to sand some of it off and make it completely smooth so our new tires end up sealing to the rim. I'll do that using 220 grit sandpaper to lightly sand all of the edges of the rim. Now what I don't want to do is I don't want to sand it so aggressively that I end up going through the paint, because that will leave bare metal and bare metal can rust. I just want to make sure that I get it nice and smooth so that way the new tires end up seating to the rim and we don't have any air leaks. Now that I've got both of the rims cleaned up, I'm going to take some glass cleaner and I'm going to go ahead and clean the inside of the rims and just pretty everything up before I mount these tires on it. I personally find that putting the tires on the rim seems to be easier than getting the tires off of the rims, especially when you're talking about taking a new tire and putting it on the rim. Here I'm going to take some white lithium grease and I'm going to spread that around the bead of the tire and use that as a tire lubricant to help get it on the rim. And I know it sounds silly, but it does work. And here you can see how I'm just going to use my body weight and just push the tire over the rim. Now I'll take a rag and I'll wipe off any excess white lithium grease before I take the grease and put it on the inside of the tire. And I'll do that in preparation of getting that over the rim. Now I wish I could just push the tire on, but I'm going to use the tools and I'm going to start with those vice grips to hold the tire in place. I shouldn't say hold the tire in place. What you're doing is you're just making a starting point so that way the tire won't try to come back off as you work your way around it. Alright, the tire's on. Let's go ahead and clean any excess grease off so that way it doesn't attract dirt. And I'm going to go ahead and get my little DeWalt air compressor and see if I can blow this tire up with it. This little air compressor does a good job of filling tires up with air, but it doesn't have a large reservoir of air to dump into the tire all at once. But sometimes you get lucky, and this time I did. Well, there we go. One tire is done. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, we've got white lithium grease on the tire. We've got the rim on the Harbor Freight tire changer, but I don't even have it bolted down to it. With a bunch of pushing, the tire's onto the rim. I'm going to load up the inside of the tire with lithium grease, and then I'm going to securely attach the rim to the tire changer. Now I'll get the vice grips out and get that attached to the rim, and that'll be our starting point when we're trying to put the tire back on. Now in theory, this is the way that tool is supposed to be used. You can see how it's designed to slip over the metal ring, but it can be a little bit awkward, and I have had varying degrees of success using this. But at any rate, the tire's on the rim. Let's clean things up and we'll see if we can't get it aired up. The front tires on these 6-inch rims, I can seem to get those to seat pretty good without any effort. But when it comes to the back tires on those 8-inch rims, sometimes getting the tires to seat onto the rim can be a real problem. I also sometimes have to overinflate these tires to get the bead on the rim. Before we get to the back tires, just to let you know, I have sped the footage up some just so it's easier to watch, so it takes a little bit longer to get all this done. One thing great about replacing the tires is you can pick the ones you want, and I picked some really wide tires. Now the new tires are in the sun, and these tires that we're going to be taking off the rims have been sitting in the sun for a while already. And I'm just going to focus on the high spots because we've already seen me change tires. So I let most of the air out of the tire and I secure the tire to the tire changer. Well, it doesn't take long, and I've already found a shortcut when using the bead breaker. Just use a screwdriver instead of that pin. It's a lot quicker. Now, one of those suggestions I had about having the Harbor Freight tire changer mounted securely, I don't think that's a suggestion. That's more of mandatory. You've got to have this thing really attached and secured someplace, because you're really going to find that on some of these tires, you're yanking and pulling, and unless that tire changer is really mounted to something, it's going to give before the tire breaks loose. Something else I should have probably done here is I probably should have gone ahead and sprayed the tire down with some tire lubricant. That probably would have made it a whole lot easier for me to get the tire off of the rim. Now it's going to take 2 or 3 minutes to take the tire off of the tire changer and flip it over. But I don't know of any other way for me to do it. I need to break the bead on the other side of the tire, which means I needed to flip it. But now I need to get the tire off of the rim, so that means I need to flip it back over again. But spending 2 or 3 minutes to flip the tire around is better than spending 5 or 10 minutes fighting to get the tire on or off the rim. Now these larger diameter tires with the 8-inch rims seem to be a little bit easier than the 6-inch, and I didn't even put the vice grip on the bottom. I just wrestled the tire around and got it off of the rim without doing that again. Although I should add, I don't know if it saved any time. That's what I mean. Some of these steps might be inconvenient, but it's probably just as quick or easier to do it. Now the tools that came with the tire changer have pretty much rounded edges, so they won't gouge the rims very much, but I'm still going to go back and sand these rims and clean them up real good, because I want to make sure that the tire ends up seating on the bead, and I don't want any gouges in the paint or anything to allow air to get out. Well, here's the last tire and rim, and I'm going to mount it to the tire changer, and then I'll use the bead brake to break the bead. But I went and looked at the video, and it took exactly 2 minutes and 10 seconds from the time I put the tire and rim on the tire changer to the time I took the tire rim off of the tire changer. So only 2 minutes and 10 seconds to get the tire off. That is pretty darn good. I'm not sure why, but using one end of this tool and turning it and having it actually sort of roll itself around seems to make it a whole lot easier when it comes to getting the tire off. It's hard to get it started, but once you've got it going, it's off. So I've taken that rim off and cleaned it up and put it back on the tire changer. Now I've got the new tire and I've put some of that white lithium grease on it. And just like that, the tire's on. Now I'm going to put some of that white lithium grease on the inside of the rim. The vice grips go on to create a starting point, and then I can use the other tool, and it just really is that easy to go around the tire and get it back onto the rim. A little bit of cleanup to get rid of the excess grease, And the only problem we might have on this tire is the larger tires aren't quite as easy to get aired up, especially without a tube. Okay, it's the moment of truth and the little air compressor is hooked up and going. And I think I'm gonna get really lucky. All I had to do was squeeze the sides of the tires and it seemed to push them far enough onto the rim that the air compressor did the rest. Alright, here's the final tire and I've got the lithium grease on it and it just pops right on the rim with a little bit of effort and weight. More grease goes on along with the vice grips. Okay, I've got the tool out and it's hooked up to the tire changer. And I've slowed down the video so it's playing at the actual speed of real life. So you can see how long it really does take for me to get the tire onto the rim. It also makes it easier to see how much effort I have to use. Okay, I've removed the vice grips and cleaned up all the lithium grease. Now I've got the air compressor running. Now if you do struggle trying to get the tire to fill up, most people will take a ratchet and its straps and strap it around the tire, and that sometimes seems to squeeze the center in and push the beads out, and that'll get you so that way you can fill the tire up. But unlike the first time I used this tire changer, this time I almost look like a pro. Well, there it is, the Harbor Freight tire changer in all of its glory. When I was in my 20s, I probably changed maybe 1 or 2 lawnmower tires in the front driveway using screwdrivers and stepping on the tire, and probably wasted, I don't know, 30 or 45 minutes on a tire and totally being wore out and pissed off by the time I got done. I can't tell you how much easier this really does make things, both in effort and time. Well, having new tires on some rims doesn't do you much good unless those rims are on the lawnmower. So I'm going to go ahead and put those new tires on the front and back of next year's mower. Well, it's been a while since I did this, but it looks like my safety briefing wasn't good enough because it looks like I have cut my hand. And as always, just because I might do something unsafe, please don't do it too. Okay, 1 front tire, 2 front tires, and there I go again. Using a spare tire as a jack stand is not a safe thing to do. Alright, that was a lot of effort, but it's got new rubber. We have definitely moved enough tires around. I don't think there's too many videos out there with me not in work clothes, but thanks for watching. Let's look at those tires one last time and we'll close this video out. There's a good comparison between the two. I really like that tire. It's big, it's not going to tear up the grass, and it's going to get great traction. And this tire is still relatively new. It's still got all the flashing where it's manufactured. Well, thanks again. Watch, like, subscribe, check out my playlist, and I'll see you in that next video.